Well, good afternoon. It's about 3:30 on this very hot and humid afternoon. Not much has changed weather-wise. We're supposed to be getting some thunderstorms. Saw plenty of lightning and heard plenty of thunder last night, but didn't get no rain whatsoever. There's some forecast for today and tomorrow and the next day as well, so we'll have to see what it brings. But at the moment, it's really hot. I've been down the past couple of nights. I had an evening fishing for carp, but the plan was to fish for carp, but when I got down here, they're just all basking on the surface and not going to go and feed until late, and I couldn't be bothered to hang around, quite frankly. And yesterday I came down, and yesterday I had a few hours just fishing for some skimmers and some roach over the far side, which was nice, although it was rather warm. But tonight, or this afternoon should I say, I've come and I'm sitting under the shade of this rather magnificent willow tree, which I'll show you a little bit later. And the plan is that I'm still going to fish for some roach and some skimmers. The carp are once again all swimming about. I have got another rod with me. If I stop here long enough and I see some signs of feeding, I might well have a go for a carp again, but we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, what I've got here is, well, it was a 13-foot match rod. It's not anymore, and the reason why it's not is because it's only a cheapo one, but it's a lot more utility rod. I use it all over the place, and so I don't pack it away too carefully or anything. That's why it's a cheaper and not one of my more expensive rods. But it was a bit sloppy in the tip. Now, for those of you that don't know much about rod building and rod design, what you tend to get with rods is you get three different actions. You get a through action, which bends basically from tip right down to the butt. Excellent soft action rods, great for close-in fishing, big fish. And then you'll get a middle to tip action, which obviously doesn't bend quite as far, but casts a little bit further. And then you get what's called a fast taper rod, which is really where it's just the tip that bends a bit. And the faster the taper rod, the more accurate when you're casting, because you don't get that wobble in the rod. And it doesn't matter whether you're carp fishing or whether you're float fishing, it doesn't fly off at a different direction than where you want to go to. So what I actually did was I removed 6 inches from the tip of this rod and whipped a new eye on, which stiffened up the tip considerably and made it much better for waggler fishing, because a lot of the wagglers I tend to fish in antenna floats in excess of 2 swans, so I needed a bit of a stiffer tip, but it's not ruined the action of the rod at all, so it's still perfect for everything else. Anyway, on here I've got a little 2BB crystal antenna, or crystal insert should I say. I know we're not on the canal, but they're very slim floats and they've got wonderfully fine tips. They're very sensitive and they're perfect for this sort of fishing. I'm on a 3-pound main line. I've got a 2-pound hook link down to a size 16, so I can just fish a grain of corn on. And I've got a couple of number 10s spread out just to get a slow fall on it. Once again, it's not very deep here. We're only talking, what, 2 foot, I should think that is, about there. So I'm going to fish for skimmers, crucian, roach, rudd, whatever's in here. And then I've got a giant bag of corn with me. I like sweet corn. It's my second favourite bait after bread. The reason being, it's nice and cheap. It catches lots and lots of fish, the same as bread does. Anyway, that's enough talk. I'm going to turn around and get fishing. Now, today with the fishing, what I'm doing is I'm not even really bothering to cast today. What I'm going to do is I'll just pull the hook link down to the butt of the rod, and every time that I'm going out, I'll just flick it out and lay it out, and I'll always be more or less in the same spot then, so it helps to keep it quite accurate. And there's a platform over the other side which you can probably see on the camera, so what I'll do is I'll just line up with that put a bit of bait in around there, and then just drip feed bits of corn in until we get a few fish. Got a towel with me. I've dunked one end in the water. The reason why I've done that is because when you're feeding sweet corn, you end up getting your fingers all sticky, and this weather, it gets all over the rod and everything. Right, I think we'll make a start. I've got the clutch set pretty light just in case I hook something a little bit bigger than the normal, but to be honest, if I hook a carp on this outfit, I'll be very, very lucky to get it in. Right, as I said, single grain of corn, and all I'm going to do is swing that out, line it up with that platform and where I've baited up. Bit of breeze pushing down the lake. A few grains of corn round. Oh, that breeze is just absolutely divine, I can tell you. It'll probably take a little while to get the swim built up and start getting a few fish in here. Missed that one. That is part of the fun of this sort of fishing though, is that you do have to work at it. It's not like sitting behind a pair of carp rods just waiting for a bite alarm to go off, throw a few boilies in and just sit there. You do have to work a little bit at this sort of fishing, and that's part of the appeal. You know, you've got to try and build your swim up. My throwing could be a bit more accurate, couldn't it? You'll get there. There we go. Oh. I'm only literally going to feed 3 or 4 grains at a time, and then I'll obviously adjust the feed dependent upon the response I get from the fish. And it's the same, I'm fishing just dead depth at the moment, and what I might do is I might need to shallow up, or I might need to fish a bit more over depth. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to keep feeding these couple of inside margins down the sides of me. And we'll see if anything comes into the margin a little bit later. There's a couple of buzzards up over there calling. 3 of them actually. It's a mother, a father and the youngster by the looks of it. Here we are. Oh, blimey. That's a little bit bigger than I thought. Oh, it looks like a nice, I think it's a skimmer or a rudd. Beautiful. Well, what a lovely first fish to start with. There we go. I was expecting something tiny, to be honest. It is a skimmer. Let's have a look at it. Or a bit of a hybrid, I think, looking at these fins. Yep. There we go, for our first fish. Not bad. That'll do me. Just get that slime off. Push it up. It's the easiest way. And then just give it a ping. It was certainly too hot over the other side yesterday. I don't know how those lads are standing it that are over there now, but it was too hot for me. But then again, I am getting on. Yeah. Looks like a nice little roach. And that one, as John Wilson used to say, has gone back by himself. Should have netted it, really. There's one. Oh, it took an awful long time to get a bite then. Never ceases to amaze me the stamp of the roach in here. They're absolutely beautiful. Who could complain at a net full of fish like that? If I'm not mistaken, in the words of Pink Floyd, I think I just heard the delicate sound of thunder. Wind's changed direction. Yep, that sounds like thunder. Here we are. Oh, yeah.
Hello there.
Evening.
Hi.
All right. Oh, yeah.
You got your camera ready?
I have, yes.
Let's hope you take a good picture then. Right. You need a ticket or did you?
No, I've got a book here, Tony.
Fine then, okay.
Yeah, I met you on the weekend when I came down. John introduced me to you.
Oh, right, okay.
But I've got it here somewhere.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. You're okay.
Oh, it's a bit warm for traipsing round, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it's a lovely evening now, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's
just a bit too warm for me.
Yeah. It's all right round here. I wouldn't want to be in the sun, I don't think. Oh, yes, at last. Very slow though, very slow. Right, I think we'll put the camera off for a bit and save it for a bit later. This breeze is absolutely lovely, but it doesn't know where it wants to go. One minute it's blowing from right to left, and the next it's blowing from left to right. It's all over the place at the moment. There we go, here's another one. I said it's been slow but steady. I've had a number now. It took a long time to build up though. But I've just seen a couple of carp coming a bit closer, swirling under the surface. I was getting a bit concerned that I'd end up hooking one of those. It's a funny thing, I was talking about I'm using a canal crystal today which is made by Drennan. Well, many years ago the make of float I used to use was Ultra, and it's when I used to match fish when I was younger, and I can't remember who was actually responsible for Ultra floats. It was somebody can write in and tell me because I'm having a senior moment, but it was either somebody like Billy Lane or Benny Ashurst. I'm not sure who was responsible for them. But anyway, I always used to use Ultra floats, and I was quite a fanatic actually when I used to go, I said match fishing, all in my box. I had my box laid out similar to how pole anglers have theirs now, and I'd got 2 of every float in there of every available size, and these floats had to be matching. So what tended to happen was I'd go down to the John Fletcher's shop, pick up say 2 Ultra 2BB antenna floats, and then I'd bring them back, and the first thing we used to do was shop them up and dry them in a bucket or a milk bottle, and if they said that they were 2BB, that's what they had to take. It was no good to me if they took 1.5 BB or 2.5 BB. Both floats had to be identical as well, and they weren't always in those days, in all fairness. And if it wasn't right, I used to take the duff one back down to the shop, and I used to make John change it. I think I used to be the bane of his life sometimes. And anyway, later on, Ultra floats stopped production, and over the years the inevitable happened. You know, you start to lose a few floats and one thing or another. I couldn't replace them, so I changed over to another manufacturer's, which was Drennan, and it was about the time of the crystal wagglers and crystal insert floats coming out and so forth, so I changed over. And same thing, I demand that the floats, if they say that they're 2BB, I like them to take 2BB and perhaps just a couple of number 10s or number 8s. And anyway, some of my favourite floats were these canal crystals, because they've got an ultra slim profile and they fly beautifully, and as I said, they've got a very fine antenna. They're very sensitive floats, And anyway, you can't get hold of them anymore, and I'm down to my last couple, because inevitably over the years you do end up losing floats, and I'm down to the last couple that I've got now, and I've checked, you can't get them anywhere. Also, I noticed that Peter Drennan doesn't do the one swan chubber anymore, which for a lot of my small stream chub fishing and shallow water barbel fishing is the float that I tend to use in the main. They only do a 1.5 swan now, and the 1.5 swan is too heavy for the 1.5, 2 foot depth of water that I go and fish. And also I lost that float the other day, which was a 1.5 AA insert waggler, and I looked that up, you can't get that either anymore. Well, I fully understand market forces, and old Peter Drennan isn't going to manufacture these floats anymore if they're not selling very well. But I tell you what, it's damned inconvenient, because now I'm going to have to start looking around and trying to find alternatives again. But should Peter Drennan happen to ever see this video, Peter, if you've got a load of 1 swan chubbers, canal crystals, or 1.5 AA insert wagglers kicking round in an old stock room somewhere, you can send them my way. They're coming a little bit now, a few nice roach. Ooh, I'll risk it, I'll risk it. Well, I've got another, looks like a nice, oh, could be a roach or a skimmer I think. No, hang on. Yeah, roach. Oh, and I think I'm going to have to, little skimmer, I'm going to have to end on this fish. Just over there, if I pan the camera around, it's going rather dark. The thunder is crackling away there, and carbon rods and lightning and thunder do not mix. So I'm going to call it a day on that fish there. So once again, thank you for watching, and until the next time, all the best with your angling.